Kenya Airways, the pride of Africa. We as Kenyans, can we claim that Kenya Airways right now, as it is, to be the pride of Africa? We can scrutinize ourselves to make sure that, yes, everywhere or any passenger boarding Kenya Airways will feel like, yes, this is the pride of Africa. We can reclaim that position. But right now, as we speak, Kenya Airways is in not a good place right now. Kenya Airways is sunk into debts. And this is the only asset that we as Kenyans need to think very, very seriously, because if we lose it, we will not be recognized as the gateway to Africa right now, as the gateway to East and Central Africa. And for you to be a good gateway, then you have to have a functioning airline. Ethiopian Airline is doing well. Run Air is coming up very well. And we need to take note, because we might be thinking, hey, we are going to be the best, but there is a way whereby we can lose our gateway, because Rwanda is doing well, and all the East African communities, they are all reviving their airline. And so recently we had interviews with the chairman and the CEO of Kenya Airways, and they're all talking about merging Kenya Airways and Kenya Airport Authority in order to be able to compete in the market. Because as we see right now, Kenya Airways, people who own it, 49% is owned by the government of Kenya, and 7.8% is by Air France or KLM. And year in, year out, we have seen KQ has gone through so many debts. They had to come up with solution to see how they can, restructure this debt. And we can see in 2016, they had a financial loss of $251. And this was through the slum travel. And as you all know, during that time, there was this Al-Shabaab war, and it hindered so many tourists from visiting the country. And at the same time, KQ was going through aggressive buying of new fleets, the Boeing 707. And so much of the money was geared towards buying new fleets. And so in 2017, we see they were also in debt, and they had to convert that debt into share of around 2 billion. But when we look at some of the competitors, let's look at the close one, because the competitors that compete with Kenya Airways, compete in that market, they're all state-owned, meaning all the rules and regulations are made by the state. They're all state-controlled. So in terms of budgeting, in terms of providing money, the government does that. They're all state subsidized and state managed. So KQ being a private company, then that means all of the key important ingredients is how they will maximize the profit for their shareholders. And this doesn't matter if they want to expand or maybe become the pride of Africa. So the shareholders want to know, hey, are we making money? Are we getting dividends? But that's not the key, because an airline industry is not a money minting business. If you are in KQ and you think you're going to be making profit, then you're in the wrong business, because this industry relies heavily on huge fixed asset. And depending on if all the seats are being filled by passengers from one destination to the other, you're not guaranteed that you'll have a full airplane with all passengers traveling from one destination to the other. the flight might have half passengers, three-quarter of the seats full, or maybe none whatsoever. But the fueling cost, the fixed asset cost will always be fixed. And so there's a tendency of this industry to make money or not make money. And so if the shareholders always think about profit, then I believe this industry is going to fail. And we can see our key competitors. If we compare ourselves with some of the key ones, which are Ethiopian Airline, Qatar Airways, Emirates, and the new entrants of Rwand Air, when you look at the category, for example, in terms of ownership, I mean, Ethiopian Airline is 100% owned by the government. 100%. Look at Qatar Air. I mean, can you compare Qatar Airways with Kenya Airways? Qatar Air, they get all the funding is state controlled. If they want to increase their fleet, the government is going to provide that. Same thing with Emirates. Same thing with Rwand Air. And recently, I believe Rwand Air has entered into negotiations with the Qatar Airways, meaning that Rwand Air in the next 5-10 years is going to be big than us. But look at us in terms of ownership. We are a public listed company. This is a joke. This is a real joke, because if we keep on saying, oh, it's because of poor management, that is not the case point. That is not the case. This has to do with making sure that the airline becomes a state-funded, managed, subsidized airline for it to compete. Same thing, look at the category, the aircraft number. Ethiopian have 100, and these figures as per last year. They have 100 fleets, and they're saying 59 are on order. So this was 2018. I'm pretty sure maybe they have ordered all those 59, or maybe they're in a position of making sure they have all of them. Qatar Airline, they have 203 fleets, and 100 are on order. Look at Emirates, they have 200 and plus fleets, and also 100 on order. Look at Rwand Air, and I think the Rwand Air, it's coming up well. Right now they have 12 fleets, and they're ordering between 12 to 15. And yet, look at the pride of Africa. Right now, they only have 33 fleets, and they don't have any orders yet. Keep in mind, all these four, which are very aggressively competing for the African market and flying in other destinations, that means the pricing has to be fair. That means the services have to be of high standard, because when you put yourself under Emirates and Qatar Airline, those are big giants. They are well-known airways, not only in Africa. I mean, the services that Emirates and Qatar provide worldwide is of high class. I know in the US, some of the biggest actors are being used even to provide advertisement. Watch any game, any sport game, especially when you watch tennis, you will see Qatar, actually not Qatar, Emirates advertise all the time. And so when you look at number of destinations, you see Qatar is leading with 150 plus destinations and 23 in Africa. Ethiopian have 131 around the world and 77 in Africa. Emirates have 140 destination number and 20 in Africa. Rwand Air have 21 and 17 in Africa. And Kenya Airways, they have 53, 45 in Africa. I think we need to really think and go back on the drawing board to see that, even if we push Kenya Airways to make profit, it will never materialize. They are deeply in debt, and it doesn't mean that the other airlines, they're not competing for those customers. They are. Ethiopian is aggressively marketing, is aggressively expanding. Rwanda Air is also coming up, and I believe in the next 5-10 years it's going to be huge than the Kenya Airways. So the government just need to merge Kenya Airways with KAA and make it a state-run airline. Whether we like it or not, that is the only hope that Kenya Airways has, because when you look at all the subcategory of integrated airline and airport, you find that Ethiopian Airline is integrated with its airport, Qatar the same, Emirates the same, Rwanda Air the same, but us, Kenya Airways, Kenya Airport Authority is on its own, and Kenya Airways is on its own. So how do you compete with all these other airlines, same destination, some same destination, some same customers, and when it comes to pricing, the same, and you expect yourself to make a profit? It will never happen. In this market, Kenya Airways is on a losing spree. Subsidies Qatar receive from the government, Ethiopian receive from the government, Emirates receive from the government, Rwanda Air the same thing. What about Kenya Airways? None. Regulations preventing employees from strikes. You see all this happening in Kenya Airways. And you see, one of the things we don't realize, we might think like striking is good because it's improving, we want to increase our salaries. But you're carrying international customers. Somebody is going to connect a flight somewhere, somebody is going to visit someone, somebody is going to a meeting somewhere. You're connecting international customers. And if the moment you create an avenue whereby there's no smooth linkage or connections to them, then it's a poor marketing strategy, because they'll always badmouth the airways, or people strike, so we went to the airport, everything was in a stand. It's so sad, it's so bad. And also this other thing to do with preference in booking by local travel agents. All the other airlines have it, as we don't. So that means when somebody wants to buy a ticket in Kenya Airways, they will always be of a higher price than the other airlines. So, and I've seen so many YouTubers, you'll see them, they travel with Ethiopian Air, they're saying the ticket is cheap, Kenya Airways is expensive. So you wonder, yes, you're providing quality, but yes, you're losing on pricing. And this is because of the preference in bookings by local travel agents. And look at the competitors' flights to Kenya. This is very interesting. Ethiopian, they do it 4 daily, 3 times in Nairobi and 1 time in Mombasa. Qatar, they do the same thing, 4 daily, 3 times in Nairobi, 1 time in Mombasa. Emirates, they do 2 daily, and all those 2 are in Nairobi. Look at Rwanda Air. They do 3 times, 2 times in Nairobi, 1 time in Mombasa. But when it comes to us as a reciprocal, our KQ flights to their respective hubs, in Ethiopia we only have 2. Qatar, we have none. Imagine you're competing with someone who flies in your country 4 times, but you don't fly in their country whatsoever. You have none. What does that say? Marketing strategy on point? No. At least we are trying in Emirates, we are even. At least we go there twice. Rwanda Air, they are beating us. They are doing 3 times in Nairobi, but we are doing 2 times in their hubs. What is going on? And keep in mind, These are the only four that are very aggressively competing for the same market, for the same customers. And we are losing in this stiff competition. And yet, other competitors are reviving their airlines. For example, Uganda Airline, they're reviving their airline. Tanzanian Airline, they're reviving their airline. So meaning, we will be competing for the same amount of customers, both locally and regionally, and on the entire continent. And some of these customers will be going to Uganda Airline, Tanzanian Airline. And unless we have our strategy straight, because all these airlines, they are both state-owned, state-controlled, state-subsidized, and state-managed, then we will be parking our planes because we won't be having enough or adequate customers to, take from one destination to the others because of the high cost of operating this industry. So we all need to think about it, and I believe the board of the KQ, the chairman and the CEO, they have always raised these issues, and they have realized for the company, for KQ to aggressively compete in this market, they have to merge with KAA, Kenya Airports Authority, which is a good thing. It's a good thing because by doing that, they will be consolidating all their assets. I know KAA is a money-making business right now. They're making profits in terms of billions, but KQ is not. And it's not because they're not, flying into different destinations. They are, but they are making a loss. While their competitors, like Ethiopian Airlines is making profits. And so it's a matter of making KQ the pride of Africa. And so by renationalizing KQ means that the key focus will be, hey, this is the only asset that we have that connects Kenya with the entire world. This is the only industry that KQ can compete to connect in terms of tourism, in terms of connectivity in businesses, in terms of making Kenya a financial hub. This is the only flight that we have that can make us retain that. Because if we don't, Rwanda is coming up. Well, even so many businesses are relocating there because they are realizing there's an ease of doing business there. And Rwanda now, they have realized, hey, you know what? Let's revive our air industry. And they're doing it aggressively. And if we sleep and we keep on fighting on board to merge KQ and KA, we'll be on the losing end. The challenge is politics is, ingrained in these discussions, whereby there is that thought of who owns it, who is going to benefit. I think the need needs to be, hey, let's make it the face. No matter who benefits, let's make it the face. Because if we go on our corners and say, hey, let's make sure that we know who owns shares in this company, then in the end, the person who is going to benefit is our competitors. And it will take us years to regain that foot. And since we have it right now, the best thing to do is to go along with renationalization. And that idea of forming an aviation holding company is key because, for one, it will help manage the two companies. And this will also help in increasing the fleet size that KQ has been planning from 33 to 55 and opening other 20 new destinations. Here's the thing. KQ needs to be growing year in, year out. That's the key, because Africa is opening, the free continental trade area is going to happen, and that means there's going to be a huge market in terms of people traveling from one destination to the other, people traveling across African countries. It's going to be huge. So we should be thinking about that right now. And KQ is on the mission. They want to increase the number of passengers it carries from 4 million to 7 million. And I believe with it being state managed, state controlled, state subsidized like its competitors, then it will be at the same level and they'll be able to compete effectively and efficiently. All we need is to make sure we streamline the management, the board, and make sure that all the key points they have mentioned what they want to do is implemented effectively. And also, the need to increase also means that, the infrastructure, the airport infrastructure needs to be improved. They need to increase the terminals and runways because more fleets, more people will be coming in. And keep in mind, also our competitors are also aggressively increasing their flights in our country. So KQ needs to keep the eye on the ball. I know right now they're facing a turbulence, making sure all these things are passed through Parliament. But in reality, as the CEO said and the chairman, if all these things are implemented right now within the next 6 months, it will be a benefit to the company. It will be a benefit in saving KQ. And with the free continental trade area, then that means there's going to be a single African air transport market. So air transport is going to be huge. We might be thinking we're relying into these smaller countries, but how about if their countries decide let's revive our own airlines? So that means they'll be chipping out some of the customers they have for KQ. And that's why right now we should be thinking of, hey, how do we provide air transport to all these other countries? Because once the single African airport transport market is implemented fully, then there won't be restriction from which country to fly. The skies will be open and the market is going to be competitive. That means the flight fare are going to be cheap, and there's going to be a lot of passengers wanting to fly from one country to the other, which means then the chances of having flights on a daily or twice or thrice from one destination to the other due to the volume of passengers is going to be huge, hence providing profit to KQ. And with the open skies and people wanting to travel from one destination to the other across Africa, it will be an economic benefit. And so for KQ to realize an effective strategic growth, for it to increase its market share, then the only thing they need to do is to merge it with KAA and make it a state-owned company. And this will allow it to increase its fleet, get rid of all these issues they have in terms of debt, open up and also increase on their fleets and open more routes in Africa. This is a good thing, and I believe our politicians will see through it, because for one, it's not only making sure that we have only one international asset that we do have right now that connects us throughout the world, brings tourism, brings people across Africa internationally, making sure that we make Nairobi the hub, financial hub for East Africa. Then that means we also have to have a carrier that reflects that. You cannot call yourself a financial hub in East Africa and the only asset that provides freedom of movement of people from one place to the other is sinking. Let's support this. It's going to be hard. There's going to be conflict of interest. There's going to be bureaucracy. But in the end, let's look at the bigger picture. 5 years from now, if we don't do anything, Ethiopian Airlines will be ready to even buy our fleets, because they know key to develop as a country is through aggressive marketing of their fleet, and they have done that. They are below us right now, they have surpassed us, and we need to ask ourselves, hey, 10 years down the line, why did we sleep? And I think the chairman right now is showing us that, and is giving us a strategic position, a strategic plan to open up, expand, and it can only be realized by merging KQ and KAA. With that, I rest my case.